The last two are going to come as a surprise because they're arguably the only no annual fee cards that are even at this level. In today's video, we're doing part 2 of our 2-part series focused on S tier cards. Last time it was Chase, Capital One, and the field of cards, and today it's American Express. As a reminder, S tier comes from the Japanese grading system, and it's the level above A. For our purpose, we're looking for opportunities to get outsized value. So for example, the gold card is a great card, but I'd argue it's more A tier, and it's more of a workhorse. The value that you get there is fundamentally driven by how much spend you put on it. It's a good card, but it doesn't feel broken, and it does not feel like it needs to be nerfed. We're looking for the cards that feel overpowered. With that said, big favor before we dive in, give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, especially if you like these nerdy style analysis videos, and if you are someone that wants to maximize your travel perks or your cash back from your credit cards, then consider subscribing. Starting with one of the best examples of an S tier card, we have the Hilton Aspire. I feel like I've harped on this card quite a bit in the past, and it's that good. There is a $450 annual fee off the bat, but it's pretty easily covered by the credits. This includes $250 for Hilton Resorts and also $250 for airline incidentals, pretty easy to bank of United, and also pretty easy to use of Alaska, Delta, or Southwest. Right off the bat, that's arguably $500 in value if you know what you're doing, and even if you discount it by a little bit, you should be breaking even. Well, what's the point of paying $450 to get $450 in credits? That sounds pretty dumb. The idea with this is that we're covering the annual fee, and everything else that we talk about next is pretty much value on top. Number 1 is going to be a Priority Pass membership that gets you access to airport lounges for you as well as 2 guests. This is unlimited use compared to some of the other ones with American Express cards like the Surpass, which do have a cap. Reminder that American Express Priority Pass memberships do not include non-lounge options such as restaurants. You could argue that's a weak spot right now, but with other issuers like Capital One also kind of lowering their Priority Pass cards, I think it is pretty good. Number 2 is going to be Hilton Diamond status. Normally, in order to get this, you're going to need to spend 42 nights at Hilton. I'd say that the main draws are going to be room upgrades, and you can get suites. On top of this, executive lounges, when applicable, is pretty nice, and also premium Wi-Fi, especially if you are working when you travel. This is in addition to the silver and gold benefits because Diamond is above that. For example, when you're staying in a Hilton in the US, you get a food and beverage credit, and if you're staying outside of the US, you get breakfast. Number 3, and the biggest draw for all of this, is that you get a free night certificate that works for almost every property. And yes, even super expensive ones such as the Maldives, as well as Bora Bora. If you are playing AskSebby bingo, then remember to take 2 shots. Availability can be a bit tough, especially after one of these videos when I show a few options. On a side note, I might start sharing availability to channel members on the community tab. Let me know if that's interesting. I generally look for this type of stuff anyways, so I might as well share it, but I realize if I share it to 10,000 people, 20,000 people, it's always going to break. If you're someone dealing with a cold front and you want to escape it, it might make sense to either look at Hawaii or even Bora Bora. So for example, Bora Bora is pretty nice right now. I'd argue that the Conrad there is one of the better properties and also great value. Within the next 7 to 10 days, there is availability for standard rooms, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more open up as we get towards Christmas. If you are okay with last minute, then this is a pretty good pick. Looking at the retail prices, you are getting pretty great value, about 125,000 franc. Doing the conversion, that's about $1,050, and then with taxes and fees and resort things, it's probably about $1,300. If you're someone sick of the Maldives and Bora Bora and you'd rather go skiing, there's a ton of options as well. So for example, as of filming, December is wide open. As long as you can find the standard rooms for 110,000 points, then you can use a certificate. The retail price for Christmas and New Year's is about $2,000 per night. Having been to places like this, I'd happily tell you that there are a lot of people paying the retail price. The Hilton Aspire is so powerful that a lot of people will end up having 2 to 3 of these. In fact, if they have a player 2, they'll also have 2 to 3. It also doesn't hurt that Hilton changed this from being just a weekend certificate to any time, and it's pretty overpowered. Let's actually quantify this. So for Mandy and I, we're using 4 certificates for the upcoming ski trip, and 4 annual fees is $1,800. With that, we are banking $1,000 into United and $1,000 for either the ski trip, for spending there, or for Vegas at Crockford's. In addition, we're getting 4 nights at a hotel that would otherwise run $2,000 per night, so $8,000 in value. Factor in that it's also a ski-in, ski-out resort, which is pretty nice. Even if you don't care about the experience, I'd argue that it's still better than the Airbnb alternatives. Taking a look at one of the cheapest ones, $394 a night, and then once you factor in the cleaning fee and service fees, it's about $1,875. $1,875 being more expensive than the $1,800 that we're paying for the annual fee of this card, and this is not as nice of a hotel. I'd rather take the 5-star hotel and all the other credits and stuff we talked about. Also, maybe I'm the only one, but I don't feel like doing laundry and doing dishes when I'm on vacation. To me, this is easily the king of the S tier cards within American Express. If American Express let me, I'd probably get 10 of them. Number 2 on the list is going to be the American Express Platinum. There is a $6.95 annual fee, but you also get a ton of credits, and American Express has been making these easier to use. I'll talk about the ones that I think are valuable, but I'd strongly recommend playing with the numbers yourself. If you want to follow along, Google AskSebby Platinum Calculator, and it should pop up. You can also do paper pen, but I feel like having a calculator there is just a lot easier. Of the credits, let's look at the most quantifiable ones. First one is the $200 airline incidental credit. Again, pretty easy to bank with United and tons of options with Southwest, Delta, as well as Alaska. Number 2, $200 hotel credit. I'm someone that goes to Vegas anyways, and if you watched my prior videos, I happily used FHR, the Final Hotels and Resorts program via Vegas because it made a lot of sense. All of this was before the credit even existed. In your case, you might want to adjust this based off how you value this. 3 is $200 in Uber that also works for Uber Eats. I live in the city, I don't have a car, and I happily take Uber pretty much everywhere. I'll get a bit more into this with the next card, but literally yesterday, we took an Uber down to Half Moon Bay. Worst case, use it for Uber Eats pickup, for restaurants where they don't have an inflated price, for delivery apps. Number 4 is $100 in Saks credits. Given how we travel and some of the places we go to, we end up buying jackets anyways, so it's an easy way to subsidize that. Number 5 is a $240 digital entertainment credit, which works for things like Disney Plus and also Hulu, Peacock, and Audible. Tons of credits, but if you add up all of these, 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus 100 plus 240, that's 940. Even if you discount this by 20%, you are still getting value above the annual fee. 940 with that 20% discount is 752 in value. For most people, especially American Express's core audience for this card, you're either breaking even or probably even getting value from the card. For this break even, you are getting a ton of value on top. Number 1 is Centurion Lounges. To be fair, crowding can't be an argument and an issue, but it should be resolved in 2023. Number 2, Delta Sky Clubs when you fly Delta. It also helps that Delta kind of nerfed their own system, and they're prioritizing people that have the Platinum card. Number 3, Priority Pass for you as well as 2 guests. Number 4, Hilton Gold status, and number 5, Bonvoy Gold. Even if you are someone that's not putting a lot of spend on the Platinum, it might make sense to keep it just for the perks. On that note, if you do want to learn about cards, whether this one or pretty much any other card out there, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Also, for the Platinum card, I'd recommend checking Card Match. I'll have a blog post down below, but there are a lot of people who end up pulling the 150k offer, and especially if you're currently not a customer of American Express, that is the best starting point. Card Match link down below. Number 3 is going to be the Bonvoy Brilliant. In the past, I think you could have argued that this wasn't S tier, but with the update, I think it is. $650 annual fee, which sounds pretty aggressive, and it works similar to the Aspire, but I'd argue worse across the board. So first off, you are getting a $300 dining credit that's broken down into $25 per month. $650 minus $300 is a $350 effective annual fee before the other perks. To help account for that, you do get 1 free night for keeping the card. This is going to be up to 85,000 points per night. Depending on you, I feel like it is pretty easy to get $350 in value, if not more. Obviously, for aspirational stuff, there are a ton of use cases, but even if you are doing more domestic style weekend road trips, it also works. For example, we just got back from Half Moon Bay. Point prices ran from $79,000 to $100,000. Retail price is about $800 per night.
Welcome to the Ritz-Carlton, Half Moon Bay.
Whether that's worth it depends on you and the property. Obviously, there are other better use cases, such as Hawaii. Still though, the main takeaway is that it should be worth at least $350. For most people, you're either breaking even or even getting value from the dining credit in addition to that night. So on top of this, you do get Priority Pass, same as the other ones we discussed, as well as Platinum status of Bonvoy. Normally, this requires 50 nights, and the main draw is that for a lot of properties, you do get breakfast and also upgrades, including suites. Reminder that there are a lot of exceptions and kind of rules here, so Ritz's, for example, are kind of in a different category. Also, one of the reasons why I'm generally not a fan of Ritz-Carltons. Historically and also right now, I'd argue that Platinum is the sweet spot. Over on places like Flyer Talk back in the day, people would happily book ghost meetings just to qualify for Platinum. Put another way, people are paying $800 for meetings that they didn't need in order to get Platinum. The fact that you can now get this from just getting a card is pretty overpowered. One fair argument is that back in the day, a lot of people didn't have Platinum, therefore it was more valuable, but still I'd argue that the use case is not as much domestic and more so international. If you take time to read through that thread, it was less about domestic travel and getting upgrades over here, and more so about going to Europe and Asia and getting free breakfast and also suites. Status sucks in the US and it's only great abroad. Always was. A big reason for this is because other countries don't hand out status willy-nilly like we do with credit cards. This pretty much means that in a lot of places, the only way you can actually get those statuses is by staying a lot of nights. In effect, some properties end up treating you like royalty because they don't actually get that many status people. The fact that you're at least breaking even from the annual fee and even getting value, and it's kind of a keeper card in that sense, and the fact that you get Bonvoy Platinum status makes it an S tier card in my book. Consider that back in the day, people would spend $75,000 on this card in order to qualify for Platinum because that was another perk. We have a break-even card and arguably a keeper card that's getting you Platinum without having to jump through hoops. Before we finish up, let's look at one card that might be an S tier for some people, but I don't think it is. And arguably it's two cards, it's the Delta Reserve and the Delta Reserve Business. Both come in pretty aggressively at a $550 annual fee. Unlike pretty much every other card we talked about, there's not a lot of easy to use credits to help you offset this. In fact, the main thing to help you here is going to be a Delta Reserve annual companion certificate, but it's more of a buy one get one. These are for domestic flights and they do work for first class, but I just feel like the value's not there. Maybe if you are someone that normally books first class or you fly between the coasts a lot, then fine, but I feel like it's tough. Even then, the main draw of the card is that you get Delta Sky Club for free and also Centurion lounges, but only when you fly Delta. Maybe for you it's broken, but for me at least, the Platinum is a better pick that's easier to justify. There is a business case for the Delta Reserve, especially if you are a high spender, but I just don't feel like it's broken. The last two are going to come as a surprise to a lot of people because there are no annual fee cards, and most of those cards are not at this level. Number 4 is the Amazon Business, number 5, the Amazon Business Prime. On the surface, they kind of look more like spend cards, workhorse cards that are based off the multiplier. And technically that is the case, but one thing you might not be aware of is that they do have some protections that are typically only on the high annual fee cards. One example of this is going to be return protection. I'd argue that return protection is the best perk of an American Express for normal people who want to shop. There are a ton of exceptions here, such as plants as well as living animals, so if you get a dog or something, then it's not going to work. Basic premise of return protection though is that if you buy something and within 90 days you try to return it but you can't, then they'll let you either keep it or just send it back to them and they'll give you a statement credit. So for example, let's say you buy an Arlo and you realize that it's not a fit. What you might not realize, and a lot of people also don't because I've seen people argue, is that Best Buy's return policy, if you don't have status, is only 14 days. You might buy this and realize that you can't return it, and Amazon might tell you to either just give it to a friend, keep it, or toss it, or to send it back to them. Again, there is a ton of fine print here, so it might not make sense for everyone. It is up to $1,000 per card and $300 per item. If you have both the Amazon Business card and also a Platinum, that means you get $1,000. If you take a look at the landscape, these cards are uniquely positioned. Outside of the invite-only and grandfathered cards, they're the only no annual fee options. As you'd expect, there are a ton of annual fee cards, such as the Platinums. Average annual fee here is going to be $414, and the median is ironically higher at $550. If you are someone that shops a lot like me, and maybe you travel and you can't return everything on time, then this can easily save you $1,000 per year in stuff that you just don't need. Maybe you end up buying RAM and it's not as fast as you need. The fact that these are workhorse cards, technically have no annual fee, and also have these perks, make them both S tier cards. If you do want a deeper dive to the Amazon Business cards and also comparing it to the Chase side, then check out the other channel where we did a full-on video. There is a bit more math and kind of break-even stuff, but I think it's useful. Tons of other business cards on that channel because that's the focus. Again, if you do want to learn about cards, we have links on our website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a skiing emoji in the comments down below because that's what I'm doing soon, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. My question for you is, what are your thoughts on these cards, and also which of these perks do you like the best? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.